So we welcome everybody to the second hour of Mind Shifters Radio. And today is Tuesday, September the 7th, 2021. And our calling number is 563-999-3581. And press 1, and that puts you into queue to talk to us. We'd love to hear your comments and questions because that makes this your show. And Michael's outside working. He's listening, and I told him I would take off on the first part of the radio show. So we ended yesterday discussing some of the things that I cover in a Women Healing Women, or Healing the Whole Woman intensive. And we talked about hormones and several other things, and I just was going to open the floor first and see if anyone had any questions or comments. If there's some people that are here on the radio show and you've attended one of the workshops, give us your input. And otherwise, we'll go in another direction. But I'll wait for just a moment and see if anybody has a question about the women's intensives or a question for me in general. And okay, got a hand up. Hello, Anne. How are you?
Hey, I'm good. I just thought I'd throw a with out since I went to your very first at the time called Women Healing Women. And I mean, that's where I met Michelle, and I think Nancy Doc was down there, and then Magda. And so, yeah, got to know those ladies anyway, and through the time. What I wanted to mention was, I didn't hear you mention yesterday, was at the end, I think it was towards the end of the intensive down there, where we lined up 2 columns and where
the
we
angel
walked
wash
through. And what did you call it?
The angel wash.
The angel. I knew an angel was part of it. I couldn't remember the angel wash. Yeah.
So it's like you're walking between, everybody's lined up in 2 lines, and one at a time they walk through, and then everybody, kind of brushes them with the energy and whispers sweet things in their ear and just sends blessings. And it's an awesome time. I enjoy that.
Yeah, right. Because for those who haven't, experienced something like that, for all the times over the years where, I never got those positive, sweet comments. I mean, there was one other time when I was leaving in Wyoming in the church that I was in, the people wrote on a note paper, and I kept those, and I came across those not too long ago, made positive comments about how they perceived, me. And that was so profound. And so then your physical experience like that was, triggered all that. And I go, I don't know, it just kind of triggers the love that we are in there. And I guess over the years I hadn't got to experience that. And so for me, that was one of the great takeaways. I mean, there was all the, like you said, the comments about women things, and that we feel more comfortable in a, women's setting. Although some of our intensives, they're mixed, at Heartland and stuff. When you start to become safe and comfortable in your environment, hey, it can go anywhere.
That is
true. Those intensives could get intense as well. But there was something about just having the women and you feeling more comfortable. But anyway, so the angel wash, I thought that was profound. So I just wanted to bring that up for any of those.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
And throw something in here, Jeanie.
Listen. Go ahead.
Yeah, Anne, just based on what you were saying, I think back to, and you weren't in this particular intensive, I don't think, but there were 3 or 4 women who had been sexually abused. And there was a man in the intensive, and one of the things he was there to work on was having sexually abused women and committed rape.
Mm-hmm.
And the 4 or 5 of them just went into such deep process, deep rage on both sides. He'd been sexually abused as a child. That all came up. Whew. I didn't expect emotion from me as I'm talking about this. It was so powerful. You know, the pain and trauma that drove his behavior, and these women were able to be the space for him, and he was able to be the space to receive their rage and their pain and move through it. And it's so profound when the space is safe enough to allow those kinds of energy dynamics. And most everybody, you know, goes around in their lives and covers it with rage and busyness and alcohol and drugs and food and, you know, all kinds of things. But just remembering that particular event was so powerful to just be in the space of these people who were, you know, as the world would call them, dire enemies, perhaps, and they were each able to tell the truth. And it was monumental. I don't know if there happens to be anybody listening who was part of that particular intensive, but if you were there, it would be interesting, you know, to see. I mean, that was probably, I don't know, 17 or 18 years ago now, but if you're out there and you happen to have been at that intensive, perhaps push one and share a little bit about how that looked for you. But it was, I mean, it's profound when the space gets safe enough.
Yes. But I do remember you mentioning that because I went through my experience at one, I think it was when my daughter was with me, you know, at the work intensive, and you, right, because you had that experience, so you were able to say that, and it, like, you took on that male person to help forgive, you know, to say to me at the time because of the things that had happened to me. And so, again, that was helpful. So because of your experience, it helped me to get through a portion of my issue with that as well. So, again, yeah, it's the snowball thing. It just continues to help and to heal. Anyway, yes, thank you.
It can be really powerful when we have a surrogate, someone who's willing to stand in for that person who perhaps has never, at least in our imagination, could never open to that. When someone says, okay, I'll take the role temporarily and go ahead and open and unload. And when that starts to happen, people are often shocked at what they find inside. Well, I knew I was mad about it, but I didn't know I had murderous rage in me. And to allow that to come forward, you know, full blown right there, and know that this person's never going to be triggered again so deeply that they might murder someone. It's pretty powerful.
Yes, absolutely. As so much of being an intensive is powerful. Yes, thank you so much, both of you, for what you do, and Dr. Tim.
Honored and delighted, young lady. Okay, I'm going to turn back over to you, Jeanie.
Thank you, Ann. Appreciate you. Mm-hmm. So we have another hand up. It's area code 423. You are on the air. Who do we have?
Wanda.
Hi there. How are you, Wanda?
I don't know. This is my first time to ever be on this. And I have just purchased one of the AVACEN machines. I've only had it 5 days.
Right.
And I'm wondering if Dr. Ryce will discuss that today.
Okay.
About it.
Michael? Give him just a moment. He's outside, so it may take him a minute to switch over and turn on his mic.
Yes, I'm out here shoveling 2 tons of compost into the garden as I'm listening. So you have some questions, Wanda, about the AVACEN?
Yes, I just wondered what information you could give, or if you could direct me on the computer where I can find the information. Okay.
I'll tell you what. If you do you have any specific questions? You've got the machine now. Have you plugged it in? Have you turned it on?
Machine. I'm using it on myself and my son. Both of us have had COVID. He had the COVID disease, which I had never heard of before, but that's what they told me he had. And he was in intensive care, and it was touch and go for the first 3 or 4 days because I guess he had it over a week when he went into the hospital, and his oxygen levels were like down in the 70s to high 60s sometimes and 70s.
Wow.
And then I came down with it several days after he was in the hospital. Fortunately, I had oxygen here at home, and I did not have to go to the hospital. But it's definitely an experience to remember.
Yeah, how far out of the hospital is he? It sounds like he probably had pneumonia, and they probably treated him with antibiotics.
He had double pneumonia, and get this, they sent him home from ICU with no antibiotic, just oxygen. And less than a week, we had to take him back to the ER, and his lungs were still a mess. So they gave him the prednisone dose pack and an antibiotic, and I'm not sure what antibiotic it was. And he is doing much better. He can get up and walk, and his oxygen level will drop, but he can ride in the car. He's getting out, and we just praise God. It's a miracle.
No, we'll hold the space. What's his level of oxygen? What's his blood oxygen?
When he's sitting, it's 95 and above. But if he gets up and goes to the bathroom, it can drop down into the high 80s. But then when he gets back down and sits there for just 2 or 3 minutes, it's back up to 95.
Oh, good. Well, that's awesome. That he's back to that level. That says his lungs are probably come back into pretty good shape. Well, yeah. My input would be that you start him on the AVACEN, just doing 10 minutes, maybe twice a day. And
yeah, we've already done that. We started. We're doing 30 minutes now.
Okay, and he's handling that okay?
Yes.
Perfect.
I definitely feel like it's improved my breathing. And I'm hoping that it will improve my aches and pains, but I think that probably is going to take a while.
Yeah, it is time. It takes time to open the circulatory system and get the oxygen nutrition into the cell to rebuild the cell, and also to pull the excessive waste out of the cell that have been building up in the cell because of a lack of circulation. So, if he's up to 30 minutes twice a day, then do that for a couple of days, and then he could do 3 times a day, even 4 times a day. I have one fellow who bought a machine, and he had been through, I don't even remember how many back surgeries. His mother actually lived in California, and he was in Arizona, and he could not even get in the car to drive to see her. She was in her 90s, and he couldn't get in the car, and he was doing 6 hours a day on the AVACEN. And finally, after about 3 weeks of that, he was able to get in his car and drive to California, pain-wise.
Oh.
So.
Okay.
And COVID, my understanding is that COVID is at least a great part of it is vascular, and what the AVACEN does is it opens and improves the microcirculation. And if you'd like to, basically 2 things. There are 3 major things that are happening when you put your hand in the AVACEN. Basically, for those who don't know what we're talking about, it's a device about the size of a bread box. You put your hand in it, and you turn it on, and a cuff tightens around your wrist. You've got a mitt on your hand, so the cuff seals well. It's kind of like a blood pressure cuff, only not as hard, not as tight, and it pumps down and creates a vacuum, which distends the blood vessels in the hand and brings more blood into the hand. There's a heat exchanger in the palm of the hand, and basically what happens is you put your hand in that machine and you put it on a small hot plate that diffuses heat into the bloodstream. And once you start raising the temperature of the blood, the first thing that happens, it's a Class 2 medical device, and the medical claims that can be made for it, approved by the FDA, are 1, relaxation. The first thing that happens is once the blood warms up by a degree or so, the blood in the palm of your hand, when it leaves your hand, goes to the body, circulates around. In about 3 minutes, it's back in the palm of your hand. So once you do that, 10 minutes, 3 times around the body, the whole body has the whole blood supply has its temperature raised by about 1 degree. And what that does, first of all, at the head of each of the capillaries, the only way that oxygen and nutrition get into a cell is through capillaries, which are blood vessels about the tenth the width of a hair. And at the head of each 60 billion capillaries in each of our bodies, there's a thing called a precapillary orifice. It's a set of muscle fibers at the head of the capillary that, when the body wants to shut circulation down, tighten and close that opening. If people live in a fear-based world and an uptight world and what they call a sympathetic nervous condition, where the sympathetic nervous system is their dominant state, then those muscle fibers tend to be locked up and tight, and blood can't get into the capillary. When you start pouring warm blood over it, those muscle fibers warm up and they soften, they open, they relax. And that creates a bigger opening for blood to enter into the capillaries. And then when the blood is warmed by a degree or so, the red blood cell itself is larger than the opening into the capillary, and it has to be able to flex itself. And if we, with a sad diet, we're eating out of McDonald's and fast food, and which means we're taking in a ton of junk oils, or we eat a lot of prepared foods, then the red blood cell tends to become inflexible. And in order to get into the capillary, that red blood cell has to be able to bend or flex itself. It's called erythrocyte deformability. And erythrocyte just means red blood cell, and deformability means I can bend. Well, when you warm that red blood cell by that 1 degree, all of a sudden it can start to flex and get into that capillary opening with those relaxed muscles, fibers around the head of the capillary. And then once the body's temperature, the blood temperature, is up by 1 degree, the hippocampus says, oop, we need to cool this down. We need to throw off this heat. And you can get similar benefits from sitting in a bath of hot water for an hour, going out and running for an hour, sitting in an infrared sauna. But you get all sweaty and it's kind of messy. And what happens is the way that the body, when it gets hot from running, a sauna, or hot water, is that the water beneath the surface of skin warms up, comes to the surface, and evaporation cools the body down. Well, the AVACEN is specifically designed so there's no sweat response. And so when the brain says, I need to cool down, what it does is it opens all of the periphery circulation and the circulation into the organs. So it dumps that heat by opening those blood vessels, so it's still another level. So now you're getting a full supply of oxygen-rich blood and nutrition into the cell, and the removal of acidic carbon dioxide and waste, and the cell is able to strengthen and rebuild itself. And at least one medical doctor offers the theory that if you've got a 5% deprivation of oxygen to a cell, the cell's in excruciating pain, and that's why the second medical claim that the FDA allows for the AVACEN is for pain management, because once you start to get that oxygen into the cell, it stops screaming in pain. It makes a profound difference in how it operates. So I build up to 3 times a day with both him and yourself, even 4 times a day if there's time for it. And of course, one of the other major benefits, a predictor of how long we're going to live is how well we sleep and how long we sleep. And most people, when they put their hand in the AVACEN, almost instantly go to sleep. And the reports I've gotten back from people are my sleep has improved so much. Now, there's one sleep researcher who talks about the importance of sleep, and he says there's a global experiment that's been going on for years, and it's called daylight savings time. And what they've shown over the years statistically is that losing that hour sleep when the clocks take away an hour, the next day there's a 23% increase in heart attacks all around the globe where they do daylight savings. And then the reverse, when the clocks go the other way and people gain that hour of sleep back, all around the world there's a 21% decrease in heart attacks. So the importance of sleep to health and aliveness is so important. So I make sure that one of those sessions that he does and that you do is last thing at night. In fact, you can just have it on the side of the bed and go to sleep. Just let it run and let your hands stay in it. And then when it shuts off, sooner or later through the night you'll take your hand out, but it tends to enhance sleep just immeasurably. If you want to drop Jeanie, Jeanie at whyagain.org, an email with your email address in it, I'll send you back a video that I did, an introduction. It's about an hour and a half introduction to the AVACEN, and an article that is not finished yet, but I'm working on. It kind of lays out what I see as how it's operating, what it's doing, and then the experiences that several people have had in changing what's going on in their bodies and their minds. Another thing that happens with it is emotional traumas tend to flush out. What I've come, the core of this work that we do is why it's just happening to me again, is forgiveness. That is the removal of energetic patterns that don't belong. And what I've come to see is the AVACEN is literally a physical form of forgiveness. It physically vitalizes the structure to be able to forgive, to remove, to throw off what doesn't belong. And we've watched a lot of people with great emotional trauma and turmoil and even depression, and the depression lessens and disappears. The emotional turmoil tends to disappear. So it's pretty powerful to watch the changes that happen for people.
Okay, thank you. I have one more question. Does
Yes.
this influence weight loss in any way?
Say it again?
Does the AVACEN influence weight loss in any way?
Many people report that their weight reduces when they use the AVACEN, and I think it's because what happens is when you're getting oxygen in throughout the whole structure and nutrition where it hasn't been, the body isn't saying, I'm hungry, 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 give me, eat, feed me, because it reaches the level where it realizes it's got the nutrition that it needs, and the apostat shuts down and hunger stops. So yes, there have been several people who've reported. Jeannie's actually done a program. She's added to the AVACEN, but since she started using it, I don't know where you're at now, Jeannie, 23, 24 pounds you've taken off?
Yeah, 24.
You're doing,
and it's
24.
all, it's kind of like this work. It's just more mental. It doesn't change your diet. It doesn't, force you to exercise or anything like that. But it just totally changes the way you view your body and food. And
the perfect adjunct. And if you want information on that, just put that in the email to Jeanie, and she'll send you some information and a link that will give you a 14-day free trial on that program, and it will support us as well. So.
Okay, great. Could you tell me that one more time, because I'm using the AVACEN as we're talking, and my other hand is broken finger, so I can't write.
Do you receive text on this phone?
Yes.
I'll just text you. I'll text you.
I'll have to. This is my house phone, so I don't receive text on it.
Oh, okay. All right. Well,
then go ahead and send the email. JEANIE at whyagain.org. Jeanie at whyagain.org. Cool.
Okay.
Awesome. And any questions, feel free to be in touch. When we get that email back to you, I'll include my phone number. If you have any more questions about the AVACEN, I'll be there to support you.
Okay. Thank you so much.
All right. Blessings, Wanda. Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Okay, Miss Jeanie, it's all yours. I'm going to go back to the shovel.
Okay. So our call-in number is 563-999-3581, and press 1, and that puts you into queue. And we would love to talk with you. We would like for this to be your show instead of a monologue. Yesterday, we were talking with Susan about the Women's Intensive, and I was answering some questions about that. We talked about several things. If there's anybody that has listened to yesterday's show and you have additional questions, I'd be glad to answer them. And I appreciate the push in the direction of contemplating doing an online Women's Intensive. I had talked about it before, but then the conversation yesterday, plus day before yesterday, I started writing in my book again, And so all of that just seems to kind of be culminating into this is probably the next thing that I need to do. So I do appreciate the push in that direction. And I'll be glad to answer any questions that you have. I know that several people, Susan, welcome back. How are you?
Yeah, that was good.
Hey.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, that was good. In fact, it's led to another question I have, and this is way out of probably anybody's parameters, but Tim and I have been reading about youth in Afghanistan who have left the country either by escaping by themselves or being sent by frightened parents who want at least to have their children safe. We have a refugee center in my church, and we teach English as a second language. But now Tim and I are considering, and I mean just the basic beginning thinking about fostering one or two Afghanistani children who they'd be 13 to 18 years old, and the commitment is big. You keep them until they're 21, at which point I don't know what happens. I guess they're considered adults and should be on their own or something. But I was wondering if anyone in our listening community had ever done anything like that. Of course, it triggers a lot of fears, and Tim and I are both retired and introverts, and the idea of having a couple of teenagers in the house, and that probably would be better to have more than one so that they'd, I assume, be speaking the same language so they'd have company while we learned how to communicate with them. But I know this is far-fetched, but it comes under the umbrella of parenting and motherhood and all that stuff. So
that's awesome.
I personally don't know of anybody who's done that, but I think that's awesome. Go ahead, Michael.
Well, and the other thought that comes is perhaps bringing the forgiveness process to that community as well, because the amount of trauma and pain that those folks are carrying is just in this insanity.
Tremendous. It's tremendous.
It's just, wow.
I know. Can't imagine. And, of course, I have a whole, already well in place, a whole capacity to generate terrible scenarios and scary scenes of delinquency and mental health problems and rebelliousness and rage and who knows what these kids have been through. So I might need you guys more than ever on the radio show myself. But even to start, we have this language. They probably speak Parsi or Arabic or I don't know what language, certainly
right.
Not a language I've ever learned, There are support services that come with it, caseworkers, and we have our refugee center, which has been shut down again, by the way. COVID in Pennsylvania is over the acceptable numbers. So church has now gone back on Zoom, and the refugee center had just opened its doors. We had 2 sessions, I think, and then they shut us down again. Oh, but I have to tell you this neat thing that we're doing. Every year in my parish, we have run what we call a tossed and found sale, which is parishioners and friends bring in every kind of thing that they don't want. It's a huge yard sale. And we end up doing pretty well with it, but we end up almost giving away the stuff. So this year, we thought we would just plain give it away and forget about asking for money. We'd have little bins around for donations and if people wanted to do that. But basically, we're collecting stuff to give away, and we're doing it even though we're shut down, which means one of 2 things. We can run it out on the church lawn if the weather holds, or somebody will stand as a sentry at our church door and let in 10 people. We're allowed to have 10 masked people in at a time. They come in, pick over the stuff, get thrown out, and the next pile comes in. But with this influx of refugees, there are people who have nothing. They're just coming with the clothes on their backs and a duffel bag or something, and that's it. So we're trying to find sort of, it's like redistribution of wealth. We all have, in this country, we all have so much more than we need. Right, Jeanie? You always talk about your clutter issue.
Right.
It's so nice. People have a place to unload the stuff. So we're swinging into action, even though we really don't know from one day to the next what's going to happen. Although the diocese is not funny, but they say once you've been shut down, you have to be 2 weeks in a safe zone before you can open. And, of course, within those 2 weeks, your numbers could go back up. So anyway, this is just, I'm giving you a state of the union message from Allentown, Pennsylvania.
And I just looked it up real quick, and Farsi is the language. There's about 50 languages in Afghanistan, but Farsi is one, and the book is translated into Farsi.
Oh, wow. It is? Oh, that's great.
Yep.
Yeah, there was a woman several years ago in Tehran, and somebody had given her the worksheets, and she's like, this is changing my life. I need to translate it so our people have it. And she translated it. Actually, it was interesting because when she first translated it, it wasn't safe. If I remember how the scenario unfolded, it wasn't safe for her to put her name on it. You know, we acknowledged the translator. And then, I don't know, a year or so went by. She said, it's okay, you can put my name on it. That, you know, it was safe to do that. And then, I don't know how long it was, a year or two later, it's like, take my name off it. It's not safe anymore. But, yeah, Farsi is one of the languages that the book has been translated into. So
I wonder if it's available. Has it been printed?
You can download
it's on
it
their
free
website
online.
for free.
In Farsi?
Yes.
Yep.
Yes, it is.
Oh,
yeah, just go to the book. Go to the home page where the book is. Click on the book, and then just drill down, and you'll see all the translations. Click on Farsi, and there it is. You can just download it and print it yourself at home. It's never been printed as such officially.
Yeah. Well, that's all right. I mean, we have a printer as long as we have power over here. Yeah, there are only a few requirements, as we know so far. These kiddos have to have access to a mosque, and we do have 2 mosques near here, one Shiite and one, the other one. Anyway, the 2 different Muslim expressions within striking distance, and evidently those mosques have programs for kids too, so we're picturing that they will have a kind of social life through that we wouldn't be able to provide, but we would be able to make sure they get a driver's license if they're of age, and help them take the test and all that sort of thing. But Tim and I are just in the shaking at your boots, looking at it stage. We're nowhere near saying yes, and my son has made us promise not to make this decision without his input. He and his wife couldn't possibly do this, but they have our grandson, Charlie, who's still at home for 2 more years, and it would be wonderful to have access to a known teenager who could maybe mix with these guys too. The ratio of boys to girls is 30% girls coming over and the rest boys. Anyway, yeah, that's wonderful. That would give us a way to link with them. I have your book in English, and we could imagine it looks sort of similar, or who knows what it looks like. I'll check it out. Thanks a lot, guys.
I'll send you the direct link as well.
Thanks, Jeanie.
So, Michael, do you have anything else on that? Oh, he said no, but he hollered it through the door, so I think he's in the process of digging and can't unmute his button.
So Jeanie,
that's okay.
He handed off the hosting of the show to you today, huh?
Yeah, we rented a U-Haul trailer, the flatbed type things, not the box, and we have a landfill area that they compost, and they said that it's organic and it's leaves and grass, and it's been, composted. It's beautiful. I mean, it's black as it can be and super cheap. And so we went up there with the flatbed wagon this morning and got a couple tons of compost. And so he's shoveling it out of the wagon into the garden because we'll have to take the wagon back. And
oh my gosh.
Yeah. So it's
just a little
but it's beautiful earth.
Radio shows. Oh yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
My God. Good for you guys. So it sounds like you're there for the foreseeable future, huh?
Yeah, as long as my dad's still hanging in, we'll be here, and COVID, we're not planning on opening up Heartland or traveling, and it's working out really good to do the online intensives and workshops, and he's even speaking at churches, and he's speaking at the Divine Science conference this year, and all of that stuff is being done by Zoom, and so it works out really well to be able to do things differently, and then to also be here to take care of Aria and Dad.
So good. So, well, I had a question for Michael. My husband's doctor has recommended CBD oil for anxiety, and it's impossible to find out much of anything online because there's so much for sale. I wondered if Michael had ever worked with that.
He's actually dropped off the phone right now, but I can tell you that I have used CBD oil, and I also have used it with my dad. And now what we've got does not have the THC in it, which is, the component of it that can create issues, and you can get hooked on it and all that. So it what we're using does not have that in it, but we use it for Dad's pain. There's two different kinds. One of them's for pain relief, and the other one is for sleep. And so we have used both of those.
Do you recommend them, and what kind if you do?
There's a company called Cili. It's CILI, and that's who I have bought it from. And it comes in, it's really weird. It's about the size of a credit card. It's kind of flat, and it's a pumper, and it has quite a few sprays, and you only spray like 8 or 9 sprays in your mouth, and you hold it for a little while and let it kind of, absorb into the tissues, and then you swallow it. And, got a decent flavor, and so I can send you the link to that as well. I know that there are a lot, even here in our little town, here in the mountains, there's probably a CBD store on every other corner. It's crazy. And, wondering,
I've seen them down here too.
Yeah, do they have pure ingredients? Where are they getting it? What's included in it? And so this company, I knew the people that were involved in it, and, it's a multi-level thing, but I don't do that. I just order the product. And so I can send you the information on that. I think it's pretty good.
Great. That's a lot of help because we didn't know where to start. And we do have a store nearby. It looks a little shady, though. It's like it's a tattoo parlor and a and a vaping center. And I think, holy mackerel, this looks a little scary.
There's actually a couple of stores around here that are now selling, they call it Delta H, and it's the product that does have THC in it. I'm not sure how. I guess because marijuana is now legal, you can grow it, and you can you can carry an ounce of it without it being an issue or whatever, as long as you're not smoking while you're driving. So it's when I think back of when we moved to this town, the stores weren't even open on Sunday, and there were no liquor stores, and how much things have changed. It's amazing.
Right. That's so true.
And now we're getting a casino here, and it's like, how in the world?
Wow. Well, that is very interesting.
Yeah.
Good grief.
So but I don't know if you were on when I was saying thank you for the push. I've actually gotten kind of a second excitement, I guess, on doing a women's intensive online. You know, Michael's been trying to get me to do it, and I've been saying, yeah, when things kind of calm down a little bit, you know, maybe.
Yeah, I know.
So now I'm kind of excited about it. So I think I'm going to go ahead and schedule one in the spring when Michael's, whether he does the teacher's training or the laws of living. When that's over, then I'll do a women's right behind it.
That's great.
Yeah. So thank you.
Can I ask you how the
Sure.
You're welcome. My pleasure. I was going to ask you how that discussion we had ages ago about clutter, inward and outward clutter, and how's that all going?
I have slowly, you know, gone through, like, Mom was just a number one hoarder, and Dad wasn't too far behind her, and there's just so much stuff. And so after we moved in here, after she passed away, and slowly going through, you know, it's like I didn't feel like I could just get rid of a lot of things because I didn't want Dad to, you know, get upset or whatever, you know, that all of her stuff was going out the door. And so a lot of times when he's at my brother's house, I get the opportunity then to go through and get rid of some more boxes and things like that. We can move around in here now. And so it's much better. And then we've, you know, done several things, changes to the house, got central air and heat, which they never had. And
wow, great, and good for your dad too.
Yeah. And actually 2 weeks from, not this coming Friday, but in 2 weeks, they're coming to convert his bathtub so that he can just step into it. And so that'll help too, because he's getting, you know, occupational therapy is no longer coming, so it's up to me to bathe Dad, and it gets a little challenging sometimes to get his legs up and over into the bathtub, even though we have a transverse seat for him to sit on. You know, it's, so this will make it a whole lot easier too.
Wow, Jeanie, you are burning
challenges
the
in
candle
lots of corners.
Oh my God, you're like the sandwich generation, but it's a double decker because you're doing a grandkid too.
Yeah.
Wow.
She is so good for him, though, because the other day, you know, she just turned 3. And the other day she was sitting at the table with Dad, and they were playing with dominoes, and they, you know, not playing the game, but just playing with them, building things and stuff. And he played with her for an hour. It was just so sweet. You know.
That's wonderful. That is so good. Good for her.
I said, there's not very many children that grow up and get to spend quality time with their great-grandparent. And so she gets a little confused, though, like Michael come in a while ago and said something to Daddy, and he calls him Papa. That's what Ryan and Gabby call him. And she looked at him, she said, "You're Papa." Like, don't you know who you are?
Right.
Because he called my dad Papa, and that's what she calls Michael, is Papa.
Yeah.
So she thought he got real confused.
Right. But she doesn't live with you, right?
No, we have her 3 days a week. Like, Ryan will bring her over. This morning she got here about 7:15, and we'll take her home at about 5 o'clock. So it's like 10-hour days, you know, 3 days a week.
Wow.
So now this week we only had her yesterday and today, so we'll have 3 days off before we have her again. And next week my dad will actually be going to my brother's house. We'll take him on Monday and then pick him back up on Saturday. So that made me think I need to ask Michelle if she can cover switchboard Monday, because I'll be driving the car.
Oh, boy, yeah.
Anyway.
Well.
And I thought what I might do is, you know, they recorded one of the women's intensives I did. This one girl's a photographer, and so I did an exchange with her that she could attend the intensive free of charge, but she had to video the whole thing and then help me edit. And so I've got like 40 hours of video, and so I might go through and pull an hour of that and play it next Monday as kind of the fill-in and give people a feel of what a women's intensive is like.
That's a great idea.
Oh, yeah.
So Jeanie, when I call and I'm yakking about this, that, and the other thing, can I ask you to look at the switchboard, and if somebody's hand goes up, I will
absolutely.
step back? Good.
I'll be glad to.
I made that
and right
deal
now
with
there's
Dr.
no
Kim.
other hand up. So.
Okay, good. This isn't, this is just practical, because one thought comes after another, and other people wouldn't. I've heard often people say, I pressed 1 at the beginning of the show, but Susan Bingham was on the whole time. I don't want to get into that sort of thing. But I had a question for you and Michael, and this is a personal and selfish question. Do you remember at all when or how I connected with you guys at the beginning of our connection?
I don't. It just seems like you've been part of us forever.
Well, it's been a long time, but I was thinking about the fact that I was telling this to Dr. Kim, years ago, I did the Course in Miracles when it was first published. And then after several years of running groups and being very involved with the workbook, I think I did it for 3 years or so, and I put it away and I forgot about it. Then some years ago, I got sick with shingles, and the shingles itself was the least of it, but what came with the shingles was severe return of anxiety, depression, and fatigue, insomnia. It seemed as if the shingles just knocked me sideways, and I was feeling really not like being alive. And I was putting together this yard sale for my church that I just mentioned, which is going to be a giveaway this year. And a woman I hardly know pulled a book out of the donations of books and brought it to me and said, I thought you'd like this. And it was the Course in Miracles.
That's amazing.
And I felt as if I was being spoken to and saved. I said, how did you know that? She said, I don't know. I just got this feeling that you'd like this. She didn't know I'd ever done it or anything, but I took that book and I dove in. At about the same time, somehow I found out about Michael's show. And I think I knew at the time that it was connected with the Course in Miracles. And I needed it. And so that's as much of a miracle to me as the woman giving me the book. You guys showed up in my life when I didn't have even much of a toehold on my life. And you put me back together. And Tim Hayes said, well, how did you get in touch with Michael? And I can't remember, and you can't either, so that's fine. I suppose if I really wanted to get curious, I could go through the archives or something, but I have no patience for that, But
right.
I just thought you might remember. Yeah, it's probably been 6 or 7 years now, maybe more, because time goes so fast.
I know it. And this year has just flown. It's like I have no idea where the year is.
I know. Do you think that's partly because it's been so, in some ways, monotonous, because we are limited in our movements? And so when things are the same, they're not demarcated in certain ways, and so they kind of fold in on each other? Or is it
it could be.
Yeah.
I have certain things like next week was kind of a marker, and once we planned it, it's like, okay, 3 more weeks and Dad's going to my brother's, 2 more weeks and Dad's going to my brother's, so it's kind of a marker of time.
Oh, right.
So, yeah.
I should come down there and help you pack boxes. I really like doing that.
Do you? Well, after
the opportunity.
One of the things that I did after she passed was she had things in the floor. I mean, everywhere that you couldn't even walk. And I bought probably 15 of these big tubs from Walmart. And I would just go through, and if it was something having to do with artwork, because she did everything from quilting to needlepoint to crocheting to painting, you know, so if it had anything to do with her crafty stuff, it went in a certain box. If it was just clothes and, you know, I didn't know anybody that could wear it or whatever, then it went into the Salvation Army box or the Goodwill box. And so I kind of went through and did one room at a time and just would kind of create a path. But then what's happened is we've got them all cleared except downstairs in the den, and there's a section of the den that's kind of unusable because there's a big, what do you call them? It's like a wood-burning stove that sits out in the middle of the floor, you know, and they haven't used it in years. And so on either side of that, I've got boxes stacked up. And so what I need to do now is when Dad's not here is kind of get rid of the boxes. And, you know, I've written, as I've gone through stuff, like we turned it used to be my dad's office, but, I mean, he doesn't even write checks or anything anymore. So I turned that into a pantry. And so as we were going through and we were getting rid of stuff and putting shelves in, I would send pictures to my brothers, and I said, all right, I found this. Do you want it? And or I would find Christmas gifts, you know, that the boys had bought them, and they was still in the original box. It had never been opened or used. And I'd say, do you want this back? And they were like, no. So, you know, a lot of that then just went on.
Yeah. Wow, what a huge task. Is it hard for you? I mean, does it bring back memories and attacks of nostalgia? I run across some things and it's like, oh, wow, this is awesome, and I'll keep it, you know, or I'll put it in. Like I found my mom and my grandmother's ration stamps when the war was going on. And, oh, my God.
You know, so I kept those, and I found she had the baby bracelets when all of us were born, you know, with their names on them and things like that. But it was funny when I was packing things up and going through and getting things settled. The one time I can remember that it really hit me hard and I broke down, I was in Walmart buying more plastic boxes to put stuff in. And I put the boxes in the cart, and then I just stood there and cried. You know, it's just it's just kind of weird that it would hit me at that point and not when I was packing stuff. But
that's how it is, though.
Yeah, just going through motions and so.
Wow. Were you close to your mother?
It was funny because, you know, we argued and things like that when I was a teenager. She was super strict and wouldn't let me, you know, do anything. I mean, when I went out for cheerleading one year and I made it, but I didn't go out anymore after that because all the other cheerleaders' outfits were, you know, halfway up their thighs, and mine was down 3 inches below my knees. And I wasn't allowed to wear shorts or pants, couldn't go to movies, couldn't go to dances, couldn't wear makeup, you know, so it was like super strict. And so I rebelled. I got married when I was 16 years old. But when I jumped right into the fire, because that was the, you know, 3 years of physical abuse. But yet when it got down to the wire, she stood by me no matter what. And then in 2017, she came to my women's intensive.
Whoa.
Yep.
What was that?
It was awesome. Goodness. It really was.
And you didn't feel sort of constrained or shy or anything? You just...
No, not really. I had already at that point let Mom read a couple books in a couple chapters in my book, and because a lot of it's, I do kind of a timeline. And I said, you know, I started with my childhood, and one of the things I talked about was always feeling like I was in competition with my older brother. And so anyway, she was reading it, and she's like, well, you've got your timeline right, but I can't do anything about you thinking you weren't loved or something like that, you know.
Man.
So, you know, we had already had the opportunity to share and open up, and she shared some things that she had gone through growing up. And so it was a healing opportunity for both of us. So at times she was my best friend, and then other times she was just my mom, so it came and went. But I was glad we had gotten closer and had some closure, I guess, before she died.
Right. How was her death? Was it an easy death, and was she old?
It was insane. It was like I had talked to her. She didn't feel well. She had Daddy take her to the hospital, and they ran all these tests, and they said she wasn't having a heart attack, and they were going to keep her overnight and do a stress test the next morning. And so Michael and I were actually in Michigan, and we're doing a workshop, and I called her before I went to the workshop, and I said, now you study hard so you can pass that test tomorrow, and was just teasing with her. And she had made Daddy go home because she didn't want him driving after dark. And, so we chatted for just a little bit, and then I went to the workshop, and when the workshop was over, it was about 10:15 or 10:30 that night, Daddy called me and said she was gone.
Whoa, Jeanie.
I mean, it was like, I think she just chose to leave.
Yeah.
Because they said that it wasn't a heart attack or anything, but when Dad got to the hospital, they said her heart just stopped, that it wasn't like it slowed down or she went into any agony or anything. It was just like she was alive and then she wasn't.
Whoa. How old was she?
Yeah, she was 83.
Oh, okay.
So
I always calculate, so that gives me 9, 8, 81, that gives me 6 more years.
Hey, listen, cancel that. You've got 2,500 more years.
I know. Michael talks about meeting in 49, but
right.
I have a lot of feelings about that. Like, if I can't get all my beloveds in there with me, then I don't want to show up at that party. I want to go the other route. So anyway,
I posted something on Facebook yesterday that I actually reposted it. Somebody else had put it out, and it was about how to stay present and wait if you were with someone when they die, and the transition period and the glory of being in that moment with them. And it was a really nice article, so I put it on my Facebook. I reposted it.
Oh, good. That's lovely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Tim and I used to volunteer at hospice, and that was a very special time. If we were with a patient who was heading out and then head out, we would do a little like sitting Shiva or something. I don't know the tradition, but we would, it was a very, very, what's the word? It was as if it was a thin atmosphere that we were almost on the other side with them, kind of.
Right. It's like you're present when the door opens and they walk through.
Yeah. And one of our closest friends, she was alone by the time she was dying. She was only 76, but she just didn't want to be around. We put her in hospice because she just was failing. And it wasn't long before she was heading out. And we were working there as volunteers, so I was sitting with her, and she said, "Would you please move?" And she sounded very crabby, and I said, "Sure, Joe." "What? Why?" And she said, "Because my mother's there, and you're blocking her." Well, this was a 76-year-old woman who had said goodbye to her mother long ago, and Mom showed up at the bottom of the bed and was standing
that's
there.
Awesome.
Isn't that sweet? And so I said, She said, "My mother's here." I said, "Oh, good. Well, I'll have her sit down," or whatever we said. And she just, and then she lived the night, and her kids came by, and Tim did this gorgeous thing. She was not in communication with 2 of her children, I think it was, and Tim flew them in. They showed up the night before she died at her bedside, and she was fully conscious, and they cried and hugged and made up. And I think that's one reason she could die so peacefully the next day, but she just plain